Hello, I'm Audrey Cushing, Business Services and Quality Director at V Technologies. Welcome to today's interview with Vivek Venkataram, our Senior Director of Client Services. He will be sharing with us today highlights from his new white paper, Pursuit of a Perfect Employment Rate. Vivek, welcome.
Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate you having me.
Great. So what an interesting title. Can you tell us a bit about the paper?
Sure. The paper is in the pursuit of a perfect employment rate. If we start with the premise or with the vision that we want every human being across the world to be thriving, to be having the tools at their disposal to learn how to create value, and then subsequently being able to be in a labor and business environment where they can trade that value in exchange for return, that would be the ultimate dream. And I know that as we really continue to evolve in the corporate world, what we have seen is an increasing desire to align profit missions and profit goals and goals of shareholders with the goals of the community and with the society at large. And I really wanted to explore the intersection of those two trends.
Wow, I can hear the passion for this. Where did the inspiration for this subject come from?
In many ways, and more specifically, the International Association of Outsourcing Professionals. I was there at a conference that I, and several of us attended, I believe in the last year or so. And there was a presenter from South Africa, and they were talking about how the goal is to move into emerging markets and how in South Africa, they've had a lot of sustained success being able to create a labor market there and in the call center world, for example, and be able to create a lot of employment opportunities and do so with international standards that the IAOP and other organizations have been critical in laying out. And as I was listening to that, I was reflecting on something that V Technologies does through Sona Yukti and through the Health Ministry of Japan, where it's something like 1 in 3, Audrey, by 2030 of Japanese are going to be over 65, and 1 in 5 are going to be over the age of 75. So that aging population from a longevity perspective needs a lot of healthcare. So what's fascinating is V Technologies, for example, has created an education module within our university to train South Indians, specifically Tamilians in Salem, where our V2 location at our university is, train them in Japanese. And what we've been able to do is create an exchange program where those resources are going to Japan and being deployed from a health advocacy perspective to take care of that population. And so when I kind of made that alignment between hearing about what the IAOP presenter was speaking in terms of South Africa and thought about some of our own initiatives, I thought, hey, let me park this and write about it if I get the opportunity down the road. So that's where this paper came from.
Wow, I remember that session. That was very, very good.
Right.
In terms of our audience, hopefully they're going to download the paper. What do you want them to take away after they read it?
I want them to understand what the history of this initiative when it comes to impact sourcing is. So I've highlighted some examples such as Digital Divide, our own initiatives, and others who were pioneers at the beginning of impact sourcing. I want them to understand the principles of it and the parameters, for example, the 17 goals of the UN and how they can align their organization to better marry impact sourcing goals. And finally, what I want them to do is to understand that it is good business that your retention rates when you go to emerging labor markets and pull from them, your attrition rates are lower, your retention rates are higher, your return on investment in terms of that labor capital or human capital from a strictly old school traditional business perspective. Let's take the sharpest lens and take your glasses down the rimmest of noses, right? Or however you want to put it, and take a look at this in terms of dollars and cents. It is good business to adopt impact sourcing goals from a brand value perspective, from creating a better managed solution model, and ultimately creating and retaining better talent. We have had great success doing it in partnerships like the one I alluded to, or through Sona College in Salem in the V2 location. But a lot of organizations are experiencing that success. It's not just us, we're not the gatekeepers of impact sourcing, and we encourage all organizations to pursue those goals. So that's what I'm hoping any reader who can influence their organization takes away from this.
Well, that is great. And I think I would add too that the impact sourcing, besides making a difference in the employees' world, it also helps out their families and their communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because when I say that you have a multiplier effect, when you employ a single person in, let's say, an emerging market where they might not have access to this kind of, let's say, capitalist environment, what you're doing is you're empowering them, you're empowering their husbands and wives, you're empowering their daughters and sons, you're empowering them to spend that money in that community in local with local business, especially in this era when all commerce has become more regionalized or localized, right? It's more than important, it's more of an imperative for us as organizations to now go the extra mile to find, whether it's through digital means or maybe take advantage of digital means, to make those employment choices in those areas to those goals, because it has a multiplier effect on those communities at large and for that economy at large. And it only helps our organization, both in terms of how we are viewed in the corporate world, but most importantly to us, how we view ourselves and what we're about.
Oh, that is great. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. I, for one, am so glad you wrote this paper. And for our audience, I do hope that you take a few minutes to download the paper and read it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Audrey.